Hello everyone, this is JPL, and today I'm joined with,
Jay.
And Christopher.
and we are podcast name in brackets. Back once again for the monthly edition of the Top 5, where here we are starting our journey into the 1990s,
Yeah.
starting with the year 1990. Now, yeah, for most of us, I can assume this is correct that we were not alive during most of the 90s, so we don't have the same perspective as we would with the 2000s and 2010s, where we got to experience culture along with these films, plus our own sense of nostalgia. So we'll have different ideas. We won't fully understand some context or how things influence things. But here we are with whatever we're going to be talking about. So yeah, let's get started.
Yeah. So just a little box office snapshot for just a little bit of context of what came out this year. Yeah, the number one movie at the worldwide box office was Home Alone. Obviously one
Hmm.
that has endured this whole top 10 is, I mean, most of this top 10 has endured to some extent or another. We also have, rounding out the top 5, we have Ghost, Pretty Women, Dances with Wolves, and Total Recall. Kind of a very different top 10 than the kinds of top 10s we get nowadays. You know, Dances with Wolves making the top 5 here would kind of be like Train Dreams being in the top 5 of 2025.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah, it's just different kinds of movies were making it into the top 10. It wasn't all franchises. This is, we are in an era of movie stars in the 90s here. We have specifically in this one 2 Arnold Schwarzenegger films, but then there's, I mean, other movie stars all over this thing. We are also, there are a few franchise movies here. Back to the Future 3, Die Hard 2, 2 sequels, and then also Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think at that point that had been a show. Um, but then would obviously go on to become a franchise. And yeah, awards wise, Dances with Wolves wins Best Picture. Also nominated were Awakenings, Ghost, The Godfather Part 3, and Goodfellas. Good year for movies starting with G at the Oscars. The Palme d'Or went to David Lynch's Wild at Heart. And then the Razzie was a tie for The Adventures of Ford Fairlane and Ghosts Can't Do It. Neither of them are particularly well remembered nowadays.
Well, why don't we get started with our number fives then?
Yeah. So my number 5 is called Slacker. This is written and directed by Richard Linklater, obviously major filmmaker. This was actually his second film, though, so early on in his career. And it's set in Austin, Texas, following various people over the course of a day. And it bounces from person to person with no one perspective getting more than a few minutes. It's sort of, you know, you're following this conversation, and then 2 other people walk past, and so then you start following those 2 people, and then they walk into the store, and now you're following the people in the store. Yeah, it's like this very interesting, very odd little film. You're hearing all of these various conversations about politics and philosophy and conspiracies, and yeah, it's the way that I was thinking of it as I was watching it is that today all of the people in this movie would have their own podcasts. It very much has that vibe of you're listening to people's podcasts, but they're just kind of like going about their day in a pre-podcast world. And yeah, it's just this like fascinating time capsule of a time and place and the people who lived in it and how they felt about the world around them. This is very much a 90s film, late 80s, early 90s. Sort of the end of history, people trying to reckon with everything of the 20th century. Um, it's probably even more interesting today as a historical artifact than it was at the time. I found it just a very fascinating thing to sit with and watch through. Um, and yeah, it is, since it's about, you know, as the title says, slackers. It's about these people who are kind of on the outside of society, on the fringes, on the margins. You get some interesting characters showing up. There's one of my favorites was a conspiracy theory guy wearing a Batman T-shirt who was talking all of these conspiracy theories, and you hear the seeds for things that would continue to grow throughout the following decades in his little ramblings.
You know me.
Number 5 is a movie called Texasville. It's a sequel to a movie, I believe, released in 1971 called The Last Picture Show. It's in the Criterion Collection. I picked it up blind buy Criterion. It definitely was like a Barnes & Noble 50% sale. I was just like, we're just getting a purchase in. Come on. That was kind of just the vibe. So I randomly picked that one up. Fun fact, I have 2 movies, Last Picture Show and Chinatown, that have sequels on them as bonus features, basically. And both of them released in 1990. I didn't get around to the Two Jakes, but I did get around to Texasville. The Last Picture Show is a black and white movie, and what is featured on the Criterion Collection is the director's cut, which is just a few minutes longer than the theatrical. And on the Criterion release, they do have both versions of Texasville, the theatrical version and the director's cut. And the director's cut had not seen release since its Laserdisc release. So pretty cool that, it was able to get a release like this. But from my understanding, even the Laserdisc release was in color. So the director's wish was for his director's cut to be in black and white in the future. So, which I think works so much better, tying in with the original being in black and white for this director's cut to be in black and white as well. The director's cut adds about 30 minutes of material from what I read in the booklet. Texasville ended up kind of being cut to act as a standalone film and not have to be as tied to the original movie. So the director's cut was definitely adding back in the material that was meant to be the connecting tissue. So the Last Picture Show, we see, we basically follow 3 kids who are in high school who live in a small Texas town. And, I love using the word whimsical. Whimsical in the fact of, like, they are curious of what their lives are going to be. They have hopes, dreams, ambitions, but they hate their freaking little town kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So kind of like, wanting to, like, move on. But again, there's a sense of whimsy to that. And in this movie, which happens 30 years after The Last Picture Show, 30 years later, they're stuck in the town having their midlife crises. And yeah, even the director himself said how, like, romantic the first movie is. But with all this depression in the second film, it's hilarious. And I could definitely tell that difference. There was one scene I recall kind of laughing in The Last Picture Show, but in Texasville, there are definitely multiple moments because everyone is just so freaking depressed. It's so absurd. It's pretty funny at times. So I definitely can see that. It's also fascinating because you kind of see how people's morality is degrading in the Last Picture Show, and then it just goes down further the tube in Texasville. Usually I'm not one who's super crazy. Like, I don't necessarily have anything against sequels necessarily. I'm not that pretentious. What I don't love about sequels is always like trying to follow up with things like presently in theaters is Greenland 2. Conceptually, I'd like to see it. Issue is, I haven't seen the first Greenland movie. So that means I have to watch the first Greenland movie to watch the second Greenland movie, and I just don't really want to do that when I already haven't seen a handful of other movies that are presently in theaters, But, I took a day to watch both the Last Picture Show and Texasville, which, that's a pretty depressing double feature. because there's just so much melancholy in both those movies. But I gotta say, I kind of enjoyed Texasville a little more,
Okay.
and I think that largely is just um because I think seeing the romanticism and whimsy of teenagers in high school trying to figure out their lives kind of thing is, that's not, at least me today, doesn't feel as much of a revolutionary concept. What I feel like is the revolutionary concept is catching up with them 30 years later. Because also I could say, well, seeing people in their midlife crisis isn't much of a revolutionary concept, but how often do we really have this like revival, TV show moment kind of thing?
Yeah.
And that is kind of what Texasville is. We're checking in with these people and just how different their lives are, especially maybe from what they were hoping. And I mean, yeah, it's a little depressing, but it's also fascinating and kind of darkly funny at times. It's
Okay.
just, it's fascinating. I kind of like it. I think, uh, especially considering with the original theatrical version that was cut to not be connected, kind of thing. m- Uh, from what I heard, made for it to be a very disappointing sequel when it was released. I think presently, with our black and white director's cut, I think the bridge is well made. I think it's a very deserved sequel, personally. So, very fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at like legacy sequels from an era before legacy sequels were a big thing. This year you mentioned before we started recording that Chinatown had a legacy sequel this year. The
Yeah.
Godfather Part 3
No,
is a legacy
oh
sequel.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, I was like, this
Um
year, not 26. What were we
oh
talking
yeah,
about?
no,
Yes,
no.
okay, 1990.
1990.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, that definitely sounds more interesting than I had maybe been imagining just based on the poster and
Hmm.
the little snippets that I knew about it. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
when I
poster looks
see
so
Last Picture
whimsical.
Show, yeah, no, I was surprised when you started talking about the tone. I was like, but this looks like a very light-hearted romance or something.
Yeah. Yeah, not really. Yeah. Yeah, def because I feel like that was something I was seeing some people say is like the tones feel different.
Okay,
And I think specifically after watching the black and white director's cut, I think more or less that tone is just a different era of life. I
okay,
wonder, I could watch the original cut, but do I want to? Especially it being in
yeah,
color.
yeah,
I think even the original theatrical thing, like it it can't be that much different. It just had to been sold in a way to sell. You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
especially if it
yeah,
was edited in a way for it to act like a standalone, then they're like, okay, well, then we're just trying to bring anyone in here. And so with that poster looking as whimsical as it is, I think they were just trying to do anything to get people to see it.
yeah,
So
yeah. Also interesting that both of our number fives are set in Texas.
oh, is that one set in Texas?
Yeah,
Fascinating.
Slacker is Austin, Texas.
Okay. Yeah. But again, Texasville is like small town Texas, so that'd
Yeah,
be very interesting to see like versus big town Texas. Gotta say though, it one thing I think these two movies, my two movies, bring up is I think specifically today, I think we can easily romanticize like the small town America thing, and I don't think this is supposed to be like this is what all small town America is like, but there was some small town America that was not happy. That
yep,
wasn't
yep,
as romantic as we think it is, and I think there's nothing necessarily wrong with having those that nostalgia. I don't think that's wrong because I think there is some accuracy to it, but that wasn't the case for everybody in every
yeah,
town. So
yeah.
brings an interesting perspective.
And I have not seen it.
But what have you seen?
But what I seen is my number 5, which is Goodfellas. So I think this is probably the first Martin Scorsese films I've had on my list. Um, so yeah, Scorsese, very well acclaimed director who likes to make films telling the lives of very complicated individuals who do terrible things and how that leads to their inevitable downfall. And the same is true with Goodfellas, which is probably the one of the go-to Scorsese films and one of the quintessential gangster films out there. Um, and yeah, like I said, is the story of this person who wants to be a gangster, joins in, lives the high life, and then we see the downfall. Not much of a spoiler. That's just every Scorsese film. Um, but yeah, you have a great cast with Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro, and Ray Liotta. Great moments, a lot of quotable lines. Um, Again, we're watching a film about some bad people doing bad stuff, so yeah. But it has its own like charm to it, and I believe this
Yeah.
one did heavily inspire, mostly Scorsese films heavily inspire The Sopranos, which of course heavily
Yep.
influenced television. So yeah.
Yeah, this is one I watched it because I have a goal of seeing, for whatever year we talk about, seeing all of the Best Picture nominees. So this is one that I saw
Hmm.
because of that. And to be honest, I'm hot and cold on Martin Scorsese. I don't love a lot of his films that a lot of people love, but obviously, I mean, as a filmmaker, he is kind of unparalleled. And there are films of his that I really do enjoy. So yeah, going into this, I was like, well, it's a bit on the long side. I don't know if I'm going to be as into this as everyone else is, but I was pleasantly surprised. I did enjoy it more than I was maybe expecting to. Um, yeah, as you were saying, John, these fascinating characters and the way that they are presenting themselves, and even the title of the film versus the reality of who they are. The it's a very interesting thing to dig into as the film sort of progresses and you start to realize, hey, maybe these fellas aren't as good as the title might suggest.
Oh, yeah. Also, I forgot to mention, Scorsese also tends to tell stories about real events and real people.
Yeah,
Um, so keep that in mind.
yeah, this is inspired by a true story. I didn't look up any of the historical information after watching it. I am curious how much of the true, how it compares to, it's based on a book. I wonder how it compares to the book, and then also how the book compares to actual history.
Sure.
But yeah, it is sort of rooted in reality. And I mean, even just the way that Scorsese captures the time period this is set in, and like the music
Mm.
is so good. I was recognizing stuff that, I hear in the grocery store, like stuff that I assume in part because of this film has become sort of classic standards that get played all over the place. Oh yeah, my number 4 is Crybaby. This is written and directed by John Waters, and it's set in Baltimore in the mid 1950s and follows Allison, who is a square, as she falls in love with Crybaby, who is a greasy haired rock music loving bad boy with a bit of a soft side as well. Um, yeah, it's this classic Hep versus Square story that you might imagine if you think of the 1950s, but with a distinctly John Waters twist. I haven't seen a lot of John Waters films, but I have seen Female Trouble and Pink Flamingos, which are two of the big ones. And yeah, I loved seeing John Waters try to be like a little bit more mainstream, but not too much. This has so much of the things that I love about his other films, but is maybe a little bit more accessible. But yeah, just the exaggerated dialogue, the odd characterizations, the embrace of deviance, even in ways where you're not fully expecting it to go. It's full John Waters, even though it is a little bit more accessible. And it's also a jukebox musical that uses songs from the 1950s and really just roots you in the time. Yeah, I had a great time with this. Um, there's, because it's a musical, it has this like sense of exaggerated reality which really fits with John Waters' style. um yeah, I just had a great time. It's also 80 some minutes long, so it's gets in and out pretty quickly. And yeah, as sort of a the reason that I have this on my list, because I guess I won't spoil anything, but it may be coming up on someone else's list again. But I was realizing as I was putting all of my notes together that all of my other films had similar themes of outsiders and outsiders creating their own sense of community. And this one definitely fits with that. So I was like, when I was making my list, I was like, okay, I had a different thing in this spot initially, but then I was like, oh no, but Crybaby fits thematically, so I have to include it here.
I haven't seen it.
I think John's lying. I think it's on his list later on. I decided to put at my number 4 Home Alone. It's a silly little time. As of a couple days ago, R.I.P.
Yeah.
Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah.
That was definitely a surprise because she seemed pretty alive the last time we saw of her. I feel like even recently online, and I think she was supposed to be in the studio season 2, from what I saw. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, I mean, Home Alone, I've only seen one time a couple of years ago. Definitely, like, the ending sequence is what I was there for sure. I was kind of surprised how much buildup there was to it. I think that threw me off a little bit, but definitely the ending is a lot of fun. Would like to revisit. Yeah. Definitely, arguably, a basic pick, but I haven't seen a lot of movies from 1990s or 1990 specifically. Don't judge me, but it's fun. I do like it, from what I recall of it. And again, like, it's just so silly at the end. The whole movie is just really stupid and silly. It's just, if you want a stupid, silly little time, Home Alone is pretty awesome. Yeah, it's enjoyable.
I learned a pretty fun production thing, behind the scenes things, like a few weeks ago. Maybe I relearned it. Maybe I learned it years ago and forgot about it. But once, like, I heard about it again and was like, oh, this is interesting. They put so much effort into every shot, where almost every shot they have to have red and green in the shot in some way. And once you know that detail and you start looking for it, it's like, oh yeah, it's all over the place. So that was fun.
Yeah, this is one. It isn't in my watch every year Christmas movies list like it is for a lot of people, but it is one that I did watch quite a bit growing up, to the extent that I remember specific scenes pretty well. I could map out, I don't know if I could recall where every single scene fits, but I think if I sat down I could probably recreate the film pretty well, even though it's been many years since I saw it. And yeah, I mean, it's a fun concept that is executed very well. I think the performances are all great. It's a fun comedic film, captures sort of this Christmas vibe, but very 90s, sort of has that madcap little bit of irreverence there. Yeah, it's Home Alone. Very deserved spot on this list.
Yeah. For my number 4, I have another Christmas film in Die Hard 2, Die Harder. Although Die Harder is not in the title, it's just this whatever. Anyway,
the poster,
yeah.
Die Harder is pretty funny as a title.
It is, yeah. But yeah, Die Hard films, they're fun. The first 2 are very much rooted in holidays. There's the argument to be made. The second one, it's like, it's a typical sequel where it's like, okay, we gotta up the ante. The conflict is bigger. Now we're at an airport instead of just a building. And now, airplanes, they're flying and they're gonna crash if we don't defeat the enemy. And so, high stakes. It's, where we spend more time outside in the winter, so the snow, it's pretty gorgeous, pretty cool. The action's still pretty fun. It's Die Hard. If you've seen one of them, you've seen most of them. So,
and believe it or not, I have not seen any of them.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
Someday soon.
One day. Yeah, I have no dog in the fight about the Christmas film thing, but at the same time, it's such a tired argument. I don't care.
Yeah.
I feel like
uh, mhm.
is it Mikey Newman and Patrick H. Willems with their Christmas video about what counts as a Christmas movie put that argument to bed pretty definitively that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. So
If the first one is not, then the second one definitely is.
okay. Well, yeah. My number 3 is Nightbreed. This is written and directed by Clive Barker, based on his own novella. Obviously, a iconic horror writer who also did some filmmaking. And it follows a troubled young man who has dreams of a hidden city for monsters called Midian. And when he is accused of murder, he flees to a graveyard and discovers that Midian is real, along with the monsters who live there. Um, yeah, this is a film that had sort of a troubled production history. The project was approved after the success of Barker's Hellraiser, obviously a very iconic horror film. However, the studio was unhappy with the direction that Nightbreed was taking and demanded changes, and sort of took out some of the things that make it interesting. I haven't seen the original cut, but I have seen the director's cut, and I've looked into some of the differences. And yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, the film, even in this sort of truncated theatrical cut, did become a cult hit, and eventually they got a director's cut, which is much closer to Barker's original vision. Yes, and that is the version that I watched. And yeah, it's just this classic story with a horror twist. It's about this person who encounters and comes to appreciate a new culture, and eventually becomes accepted as part of that culture and fights to protect it. It's the Lawrence of Arabia, the Avatar, Dances with Wolves a little bit, though that yeah, whatever that has been litigated. Um, yeah, here the story though has a little bit of extra resonance with Midian as sort of this haven for social outcast rather than this society of like a completely different culture. This is people who, because they are deemed monstrous, have been kicked out of wherever, and there is like a supernatural element to it, but they have been kicked out of human society and have now created this space for themselves. um and yeah, it feels very much tied into the experiences of the queer community, and Barker himself is gay, so that is something that I think is very intentional, that he's exploring this idea of found family, of community that is sort of set aside from the rest of society, and that the rest of society is maybe trying to eliminate, but there is something there that is very beautiful and should be protected. It's also just, from a production standpoint, really really good. There are some like incredible sets. The city of Midian is sort of this underground city and just visually looks very interesting. The graveyard on top of it is just like gorgeous matte paintings. There's also a lot of incredible makeup and prosthetic effects. Like all of the various monsters that inhabit Midian are have their own like visual interesting things that just looks really really cool. um, Also, a lot of great performances. Horror director David Cronenberg actually plays an important supporting role. Has sort of a fun twist in his role about who he's playing. That was a lot of fun to see him get to play with that. Um, my one complaint is honestly that I wish it could have been longer. The director's cut adds back in 20 minutes, but I would have loved even more time to like fully flesh out the culture of Midian and the protagonist's growing appreciation and his sense of place there. I almost wish that this was, I mentioned Avatar. I was thinking a lot of Avatar as I was watching it, and I wish it was like a full 2 hour and 40 minutes like Avatar is, to just like really get to explore this fascinating city and the creatures who inhabit it. And yeah, but no, it is phenomenal. Seek out the director's cut if it sounds at all interesting to you. It is horror, but it's on the lighter side of horror. because the whole idea is that the monsters aren't actually the real monsters. It's
Hmm.
society that is coming in and trying to take over the city that is more monstrous. Not to spoil the theme of the movie, that is very easy to get from just the general sense of it. But that was one of the things that the apparently the theatrical cut kind of cut down on a little bit, was that specific theme. So, but yeah, Nightbreed, highly recommend.
You know me.
My number 3 is Crybaby, as it was in Jay's number 4. I got to see this about a year ago at the Alamo Draft House. Um, it was around Valentine's Day. It might have been the day. I don't remember honestly, but just went, and I don't remember the decision making into going to see it. Maybe I'd seen everything else that was in release, and that was happened to be playing that night. Don't remember. What a wild time! What a wild ride that was. Um, just it's just so nutty. It's so absurd. It's so silly, and especially like as it devolves into the musical, or at least becoming more obvious of a musical as the movie progresses. Um, like definitely the standout song for me. I don't remember the name, but when the lead lady sings asking the jailer to set her man free is just so it I don't remember specifically what she said, but that just sticks in the head for sure. um it's so absurd, it's so good, it's so silly. I legitimately like couldn't stop thinking about it because I was just like in awe of its absurdity. I went ahead and got the Kino Lorber 4K.
Hey, that's what
So
I have as
which
well.
oh nice. I haven't checked out the director's cut yet. Did you see that or
Yeah,
not?
that's I watched the director's cut version, and I mean I haven't seen the original version, so I can't compare. But I thought it was
Right.
very good, obviously since it's on my
Cool.
list.
Yeah, I do wonder. Like, I would think that what I saw in the theater was the theatrical cut, but with older movies being shown in theaters, who knows? It's a roll of the dice, whether it's the director or theatrical
Yeah,
cut.
yeah.
So I don't know. I would like to compare one day. Definitely one day. I would just like to take that week to just watch both versions, because there's definitely a friend at work that I would love to show Crybaby to, and then maybe play the theatrical version, and then I come home the next day and watch the director's cut in
Yeah.
comparison. I don't think I'd do that for a lot of movies. Like I have, both versions of Spider-Man 2 and 3. Do I want to do that for both of those? I don't know. But Crybaby probably would. Probably would. It's just that much fun. It'd be delightful to see the differences. Also, fun cameo, which is as soon as you watch it, his name is revealed in the opening credits. But a fun little cameo from an actor we know and love today for sure. Yeah, man, Crybaby, man, Crybaby, what a gem of a movie. What a gem. That's the only John Waters film I've seen, so
Okay.
it's only dipping my toes in his stuff, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah.
I recommend it, man. If you want a silly little time, if you want a little musical, Crybaby, man.
When we talk about the '70s, you'll have to watch Pink Flamingos, and then get back on that. If
Pink Flamingos.
yes, it know what you're getting into if you do watch Pink Flamingos. It's
Copy that.
it's a time. It is fascinating, and I love it, but it is a time.
Copy. Yeah, I do. I am curious about what else he has. Yeah, I feel like the Alamo may have played Pink Flamingos at one point.
It's one that gets played.
That
I want to see a screening of that because I just saw the Criterion disc, and we can talk about that when we talk about whatever year that came out, because that will almost certainly be on my list for
1972.
that year. Um, just a fascinating film, but yeah,
Yeah,
Crybaby has like the stuff that made that film special, but in a way that's much more approachable. Um,
interesting.
yeah,
Copy that. I'm also
there is like a
seeing.
little bit of edge that gets lost there, but I mean, it's Crybaby's so much fun that
mm,
I'm not gonna cry about it.
I'm seeing he has a movie released in '94 called Serial Mom.
Yeah, that's on my list to see.
Copy that. We'll see if I get around to it. Who knows what will happen because life. But
Find out a
it,
few months from now
Yeah,
when we do that
yeah.
episode.
He's been
yeah.
trying to make a new film with Aubrey Plaza, but he hasn't been
Oh,
able to get funding. This has been like for several years that he's been wanting to do it.
Oh my goodness, bro. Okay, I swear, if I had so much money, David Lynch would have made 5 movies before he died, man. Like
I
bro,
think he
if
made
I
more
was
than
like
five
Elon
movies.
Musk sitting on a billion, what was he? He's more than a billionaire, right? I don't know. If I was sitting on
billionaire.
that much money, I'd be like, Lynch, here's a few million dollars. John Waters, here's a few million dollars, and that director, here's a few million dollars. Because I find it so sad that these directors can't get funding for their freaking movies. It's so sad to me. Sorry, that's just something I've been thinking about a lot since Lynch has passed. I'm just so sad that he wasn't able to make whatever movie he wanted to make before he passed. And I just think about other directors who will probably be in that same boat, you know? Sorry.
But speaking of directors who aren't able to make movies anymore,
Yeah, onto my number 3. I have no idea who directed this, but my number 3 is The Hunt for Red October, the first and pretty much the best of the Jack Ryan films. Yeah, it's you know a Russian nuclear submarine goes rogue, and it's up to Jack Ryan to like stop him and figure out what's going on. It's got a pretty great cast, or like a pretty great cast. You got Sean Connery, Sam Neill. Connery, not at all trying to do a Russian accent, just straight Scottish the entire time through. It's got some pretty fun submarine action, just pretty fun tactics and tense stuff and all that fun things that to enjoy. So yeah.
yeah, this is a really fun submarine movie, really fun action movie. I was just John McTiernan. I think he could probably get a movie made if he wanted to, but he was charged with a felony for making a false statement to the FBI and found guilty. He actually went to prison for a few months. Way back in 2006, he had hired a private investigator who was shady, and then like tried to cover up that he had hired this guy. But anyway, yeah, doesn't have anything to do with the very very good film for the Red October.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything Jack Ryan, so I have nothing to contribute there. How serialized are those movies?
Mostly serialized. There's again because like Jack Ryan films. This one you got Alec Baldwin as Jack Ryan. The next two is Harrison Ford, and then you got Ben Affleck as the next one, and then the last one was whoever was the last one, and now then there's the Prime TV show. Yes, they are serialized. Like they're standalone. They will maybe reference things that are not important, and they're also not in chronological order, so it doesn't even matter. The order does not matter. They're their own separate standalone films essentially. So
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I remember seeing at Walmart there was like a 4K collection of like the Jack Ryan films. It was like it was supposed to be like $70-$80, but for some reason they had it marked for 35. And can't lie, it was tempting, but then someone else bought it.
uh, yeah. They're all very different. They all have different directors and different actors and stuff. So they almost, as John was saying, do function as separate films entirely. But yeah, Hunt for the Red October is, I think, the most well received of the bunch. Well, yeah, I think that might be time then for my number two, which is Wild at Heart, previously mentioned the Palme d'Or winner, written and directed by previously mentioned David Lynch, based on the book by Barry Gifford. And it's about two young lovers, Sailor and Lula, who take off on a road trip, unaware that they are being pursued by a hitman hired by Lula's disapproving mother. Which is, yeah, the fun concept. In general, I'm not a huge David Lynch person. I've seen a lot of his films, and I've seen Twin Peaks, and just never really connected much to a lot of his work. Wild at Heart is definitely an exception there. This is like, it just managed to get me on board. I'm not 100% sure why. I just had a great time watching this. It avoids a lot of the expected pitfalls from this kind of movie. The relationship between Sailor and Lula is just very genuine and sweet, even though they're sort of these rebellious youth type characters. And they are just both so confident in who they are and in their love for each other, and it's just nice to see. They are definitely, again, the thematic through line, if people haven't picked up on it, is that all of my films sort of deal with these outsiders on society finding their own place to be who they are. And yeah, this is very much this. The conflict is not between these characters, but instead the world around them that doesn't quite understand them, doesn't quite like them, and they have to find their own place in that. And yeah, this is Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern are the stars. They are in top form here. So much fun. They're having a great time. Always fun when Nicolas Cage is having a good time. Same with Laura Dern. Um, yeah, and then there's also a bunch of memorable supporting performances from Diane Ladd, Harry Dean Stanton, Willem Dafoe, several others who show up just for little brief moments and leave a big impression. So yeah, Wild at Heart. It's one that I think is kind of forgotten in David Lynch's filmography, but it's maybe my favorite of his.
I'm upset because if I knew this was this year, I probably would try to see it, but I didn't know, so it didn't happen. Because the only David Lynch I've seen is Mulholland Drive, well, except for Dune. And I've been wanting to see more David Lynch, and I just haven't gotten around to stuff. And I didn't know this was 19. Again, it was a busy month.
Yeah,
There's
and
that.
This one is a little difficult to find because it's not available.
And that too.
Digital. It's not on streaming. You have to get the Blu-ray, and the Blu-ray's out of print. I got the Blu-ray like right before it went out of print.
Dang, that's crazy. Yeah, I think from what I recall, I don't know which one. There's because I remember like when the Alamo did their Lynch retrospective, they did every film of his but one. I don't know if it was this one, but there's one of his films that's tied up with Disney, and that was the one that Alamo couldn't get
that would be The Straight Story is tied up at Disney.
Oh, is it The Straight Story?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then maybe this one did show.
I mean, this one might be as well. I don't know who currently has the rights to it.
Yeah.
Someone who's not using the rights to release it, that's for sure.
Yeah. I did see, I think the UK has a 4K The Straight Story, so or is releasing soon. So that's cool to see at the very least. But yeah, hopefully Wild at Heart can get some release at some point. I want to. David Lynch is definitely. I think again, Mulholland Drive is just so interesting enough for me to be like, I want to see more Lynch. Wild at Heart is obviously on that list because it's Lynch. I don't know. It's just I'm just fascinated, and I'm curious. Like again, like one day if we ever do like a top directors list, I would slightly modify the name to be like directors I'm fascinated by. And even though I've only seen one film of his, like David Lynch would be one of those. And like I want to pursue what else he has at some point. Sorry. All right. Moving on. Two. Another classic movie. The Edward Scissorhands, which I purchased because I like slipcovers, and so I was at one of those used movie stores and I saw this one. It had a slipcover, but not what you think. It was it was one of the Deadpool slipcovers.
Oh.
Yeah. Um, sorry about it. And yeah, it's wow, two Johnny Depp films on my list. Uh, yeah, so I don't know. There's just a certain magic to it. I feel like you guys might have more to say about it, probably, but
It's one
there's
of the more light-hearted Tim Burton films that, at least of his classic era, I think.
hmm
Yeah,
yeah,
I've only seen it once, but I do remember it being this very fascinating. It's interesting because I I forget if Tim Burton was a writer on it, but it was at least co-written with a frequent collaborator of his, and yeah, just it feels in a lot of ways like his most personal film,
hmm.
sort of another film about an outsider sort of trying
hmm
to find their place in society. Obviously, Tim Burton grew up in California, in suburban California, Burbank, California, I believe, and just felt very out of place and had these sort of macabre sensibilities. And yeah, this is kind of that type of story. It's this character who ends up in this suburban setting that he isn't fully equipped for, and kind of has to find what he's going to do and find his art. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't know if I have much more insight on that.
yeah,
It is just kind of fascinating. And then I guess the other interesting thing is that, Tim Burton for so long felt completely alienated from the culture at large, and now, Edward Scissorhands is one of the most popular films of the decade, and his style has sort of become mainstream. That Tim Burton is
hmm
now as popular in the suburbs as the stuff that he was feeling ostracized by at the time. um which is just, I mean, that doesn't have anything to do with the film itself, but it's just kind of interesting.
fascinating. Yeah, I think a 4K released in the past year, and like 4K or not, like the colors in this film is pretty cool. Like how paisley like the neighborhood is, just how much that just like pops off the screen, and like even the screenshots used here on the slide, it's just like very defined
Yeah,
looks, and it's just really cool.
yeah,
Yep.
this was an early one with Tim Burton developing his aesthetic and like being recognized for, he's one of those directors who you see it and you're like, oh, this is immediately, I can tell this is Tim Burton directing this. This film has that, just like, yeah, the color and the approach to the set design and everything.
I haven't seen it in a few years, so I can't really speak too deeply on it. I know it's a
Yeah.
pretty sweet film and story.
hmm
Um, kind of a sad ending, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
it is a classic Burton entry.
Yeah. I
Yep.
feel like I saw it like within the past 2 years. But again, I've seen a lot of films in the past 2 years.
Well, moving on to my number two. We've talked about this. It's Home Alone. Yeah, Home Alone. It's a classic. It's one of the best of the '90s. This and my number one can switch places anytime, depending on how I'm feeling. Um, just like Jay, like I have the film essentially memorized, and I could put the pieces together to create the film. I love the concept of like the kid creating traps, and I just love seeing the different traps that he sets up and the traps being pulled off and the villains getting their comeuppance. The villains, they're also pretty fun and funny. It's a really funny film. It's also very sweet. I love the old man and the shovel. As a kid, I was like, "Oh, he's scary. He kills some people. The salt story is real." But now I'm like, "Oh no, he's just a sweet old man just trying to shovel snow." But yeah, it's a very sweet film that you know I s- I like to rewatch it whenever I feel like rewatching it, and it's always like really funny every time I rewatch it. So it's fun.
Yeah, worth shouting out Joe Pesci in both this
Yes.
and Goodfellas.
Two
Two,
very different roles, or
although
are
they're
they?
very yeah, they're very similar. It's just that one happens to be in a kids movie.
Yeah, with his fake swearing, which is just
Yep.
hilarious.
Uh,
Okay, actually, I'll say it. Cryberry Baby had Willem Dafoe, so him in Crybaby and Wild Heart, Johnny Depp in I don't know 2 movies mentioned, Joe Pesci 2 movies mentioned. That's just fascinating. I don't know,
yeah,
kind of interesting.
there's a lot of connections between the films we have selected this year.
I
I
wonder if we'll note any more.
yeah, I mean,
Well,
I'm
let's
sure,
find
we
out.
can. Yeah. Um,
He's like, let's move on.
uh, so yeah, my honorable mentions. I did this alphabetical order as usual. So first up is Awakenings, which I expected to be kind of the annoyingly treacly, overly sentimental drama that got Oscar nominations around this time. Um, and this definitely has aspects of that, but it also has a lot of unexpected emotional depth that I appreciated. And this has, speaking of Goodfellas, this has De Niro in it, and then also Robin Williams in one of his dramatic roles. Um, Dances with Wolves. This is another one that exceeded my unfairly low expectations. I mainly knew it as the movie that everyone compares Avatar to. It is very different from Avatar. I have to say, the people making those comparisons, like, I understand what they're saying, but that the repetition of that, it has lost the meaning and has kind of become a little bit of a silly cliche. Yeah, this is a celebration, deconstruction, and mourning of the myth of the American frontier and how that sort of intersected with the very real tragedy of what was happening to the indigenous population at that time as people sort of tried to settle their lands. And yeah, I'm continually fascinated by Kevin Costner's vision of the US, and this is a big part of that. Um, then I also have Dick Tracy. Speaking of a different auteur, this is Warren Beatty. This is just like a really fun throwback to pulp detective stories with just incredible production design. This thing looks like nothing else. It's colorful and yeah, just insane production. The makeup effects are crazy. I believe Catherine O'Hara is in this one as well. I'm playing a henchman with very odd facial features through makeup. Then I have The Rescuers Down Under. I have not seen The Rescuers, but I watched this specifically since we were talking about this year. And the first half, I was fully on board. It has incredible animation, compelling characters, a sense of danger that I'm not used to seeing in this kind of kids movie. It does get a little bit lost in the plot eventually, though I still enjoyed it overall. But that's why it's not on my top 5 list. And then oh, I forgot to mention Misery. That should be between Dances with Wolves, or yeah, after Dick Tracy. And yeah, that obviously Rob Reiner recently passed away, so this has been on a lot of people's minds. It's an adaptation of a Stephen King book that
Oh,
just has a very interesting relate or is about sort of the relationship between celebrities and fans in a very interesting way, and is also a very
interesting.
effective thriller. Incredible Kathy Bates performance, obviously. And then yeah, my last honorable mention here is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. This is from the legendary playwright Tom Stoppard, and it imagines what the titular characters get up to in between their scenes in Hamlet. It's sort of Bill and Ted by way of Shakespeare. Absolutely hilarious. There are just scenes that I will occasionally come across, like people will post. The one of the most famous ones involves like pottery and the physics thing of like oh, I don't even know what it is, but you know, when you like drop something and then the into a series of like spheres and then the last sphere moves, there's a scene involving that is just absolutely hilarious, and I see it reposted quite often. I owe this one a rewatch because I remember really enjoying it, but it's been several years since I saw it, so yeah.
Of these, I've seen Misery and Rescuers Down Under. I've seen clips from Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. I've read the play that's based on. It's a very funny one. I want to give it a watch. Misery, like Jay said, interesting concept. Kathy Bates as a iconic movie villain. Rescues Down Under. I preferred the first film, but this is, it's well animated. Technically part of the Renaissance.
Yeah, it's sort of the forgotten Disney Renaissance film.
My honorable mentions. Back to the Future Part 3. I saw the initial Back to the Future with the recent IMAX release, and then I watched the second one at John's house, and then they were leaving Netflix, so I went out my way to watch the third one. Definitely an unexpected genre shift, which I won't say what it is. Here's the thing, just got a yap for a moment. So I had never seen Back to the Future, and so again I saw it in IMAX, and then the movie I saw after Back to the Future was the Rocky Horror Show Picture. Did I get that name right?
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
The Rocky Horror Picture Show. There we go. Anyways, but yeah, before that, played trailers of both Begonia and Back to the Future, which I think I saw Begonia. Was it earlier that day as well? I doubt it. It might have been. I think it probably was. So it's kind of crazy because I don't watch trailers, or I pretty much try to go out of my way not to. And so I thought it was fascinating seeing trailers for movies I had seen and being frustrated at the trailers per usual. But I was especially upset at Back to the Future's trailer because it showed the last shot of the movie in the trailer. And oh my goodness, when I saw that, it hit like in IMAX for my first time, it hit like crack. And then to realize that that's just used in marketing. Like, what if no one's seen it? Someone's not seen it before, like me. I saw someone who went to see The Lord of the Rings for their first time in theaters, and they had the intro of Peter Jackson talking, and I guess Peter Jackson spoiled the movie. And this guy is like, I've never seen these movies before. That's crazy. I don't know. So if you don't know anything about Back to the Future Part 3, then I'm not telling you what how different it is. Except to say that it's unexpected, it's silly. I don't know. I think on a just a slight, slightly dislike it the least among the three, but that's not saying much. They're all three fun movies. I think the first one might be my favorite of the three, but like they're all fun and very different from each other. Yeah, very fascinating. I have Pretty Woman. I did enjoy this movie. I definitely watched this one because it's just one of those popular movies. What, number 3 on the worldwide chart that
Yeah.
we had at the beginning. And yeah, I thought it was quite interesting. I wrote down a few thoughts about it on Letterbox, which I did hide behind a spoiler, but I'll try to talk about it without giving away too much. Yeah, I think it's just interesting how, like, when you meet different people in your life, just kind of like how people evolve, like just how much of an impact people can have in your life. I think that's interesting. And then just the idea of the need for connectivity. Yeah, I think this movie touches on both of those ideas, explores them in a way that, at least for me, made me think about it. Because I feel like I watch enough movies where, just for example, a movie that was in theaters a few weeks ago, We Buried a Dead. I have some friends who are big into horror, and one of them was like, "What are your thoughts?" And honestly, because I was just busy, I got to him like a week later, and so that week later, I said, "Honestly, man, I don't have much to say. I I have some thoughts, yes, but they just I couldn't care enough about the movie, and I don't care enough to share right now because it just isn't that prominent in my head. So I just find it fascinating whenever there is a movie that makes me think about it. And Pretty Woman was one of those movies where I ended up writing something on Letterboxd because I don't do that very often. I would like to write more for movies I watch on Letterboxd, but it's just hard for me to make the time to do so. So yeah, fascinating movie. And then my token Korean movie mention. But again, all the movies I've mentioned in this episode are movies I've seen from this year, and I did go out of my way to see a Korean movie. There's a YouTube channel from um, like the Korean Film Council. I don't remember the exact name, but they'll first off, they're basically like the criterion of South Korea of like restoring so many movies. There are a handful of movies that they have released on Blu-ray. I think they are under 100 physical releases, which is pretty awesome. I have a few of theirs. Um, Maybe about 60. I don't remember exactly. But they actively restore so many movies, and just let's be honest, there just isn't enough of a market to release them all physically. So they release many of those restorations on YouTube. So, um, which is really awesome. So that YouTube channel will definitely be a significant source for my Korean movies during this journey, which is pretty awesome, honestly. They had like 4 movies from this year that I wanted to get to, or no, that they have, and I wanted to get to them, but I only ended up getting around to one of them. Yeah. So General Sun, from what I did see, was definitely helpful to help revitalize the Korean box office at that time. Um, and yeah, it's about a guy who gets caught up in a gang and rises up the ranks quickly because he actually can fight. And basically, despite it being, a 2-ish hour movie, I don't remember how long exactly, but it almost feels like a villain of the week kind of movie.
Oh,
Or because like a TV show, how often like, oh, this episode we're gonna defeat this guy, and then the next episode we defeat that guy. And it just felt like that, aka the movie, where it just feels like every like 20 minutes there's some different adversary they have to, um, take down or something. But apparently it's a trilogy. And so like with the ending confused me because I was like, okay, this movie feels commercial, but the ending felt ambiguous, but now I'm finding out that it's actually a trilogy. So I had actually been aware of the Blu-ray trilogy box set for a bit, but I went ahead and purchased it
okay.
because I'm curious. Like
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily so much like, wow, this is pure art in cinema, because I feel like with even like all 3 of these movies in my honorable mentions, especially something like let's say something popular, like Back to the Future, like if you don't buy into it, you're not gonna buy into it. You gotta buy into it. And I feel similar about General Sun, where like it it's not necessarily the most revolutionary thing I've seen, but like it's fun. It maybe it's a little longer than I want it to be, but like it's still kind of fun, you know. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, I don't know. The fact that now that I've seen this one and then the other 2 aren't on the YouTube channel,
Oh,
and then the way it ended, and then the fact that the Blu-ray box set exists, I said, fine. So I bought it. So I think the next movie is released in 91. So hopefully the box set will get here in time.
yeah.
That's what I'm hoping, because that's part of why I bought it, so I could talk about the next 2 movies here. There might be a chance that come next episode it will have not arrived yet, and then I'll talk about the third one whenever I get that. Yeah, I don't know. It's Again, it's a commercial film, right? It helped revitalize the box office. So I don't necessarily think it's like the deepest thing. So if you like your gang movies, if you like seeing a handsome man beat up other men, yeah, General Sun, there you go.
Yeah, of these I've seen Back to the Future Part 3. It's a fun ending. Um, you know, yeah, yeah. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and I've seen Pretty Woman, which I mean Julia Roberts, just incredible. She's so charming. I will say, having seen Honora, which I didn't even love Honora as much as some people love Honora, I think makes this one a little bit harder to return to. Just in
Interesting.
terms
What
of Honora
I
is
haven't
like
seen
doing
Anora.
just that
Like,
they're doing similar things, but Honora
mhm.
has a different level of emotional reality to it. John, what were your honorable mentions?
Yeah, for me, I have Total Recall, the Schwarzenegger version. It's a fun sci-fi action film with like great Schwarzenegger action, uh, fantastic gross out effects with puppetry
And just
and
effects in general. It's
yeah. They're yeah, like the ones where like their eyes are bulging out as they're suffocating. Oh, that's just
just
oof.
everything with Mars and like yeah, it's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
continue.
Yeah, the contrast that we have Schwarzenegger's other film, Kindergarten Cop, where he's like a hard nosed like detective cop that like gun get down and do stuff. Has to go undercover as a kindergarten teacher, and it's like all chaos and comedy and fun. Um, Very different. It's sweet. It's wholesome, but it's funny to see the big man do a comedic role like that. Then we have Rocky 5, which is kind of the low point for the Rocky franchise. It's it's sort of like the blueprint and precursor to the Creed film. It's kind of telling a similar story, but like not as well or as interesting. It's the one where it gives Rocky a character flaw that people wouldn't think Rocky would have, and they had issues with that. I think it works fine enough. I think there's some interesting stuff here, but yeah, the ending was just kind of underwhelming. Then we have Predator 2, which expands the lore of Predator quite a bit to the point where they just keep referencing that darn gun with the date on it. So, yeah, if you like Predator action, there's more of it. This one's a little more brutal. So there's that. Then I have Akira Kurosawa's Dreams, my first Kurosawa film on our podcast here. Exciting. And as the title suggests, it is just an anthology collection of different dreams that Kurosawa had, and it's all very weird. Some of it's very fascinating. There's a jump scare by Martin Scorsese as he plays Vincent Van Gogh with a very fake red beard and hair. Um, yeah, like it was the first Kurosawa film that I saw with color, and that was very interesting and striking to see his uh, perspective of it. Then we have Tremors, a comedic quote unquote horror film with Kevin Bacon. It's like the Dune worms, but smaller, and yeah, yeah. There's like 8 films, but each new film is like lesser and lesser in like quality and budget. So you gotta, all right. Then we have Gremlins 2, the new batch. Even though the title suggests it's a sequel, it's actually more of a parody of the first film, um, where pretty much the director just didn't really want to make this film, and so to have fun with it, they just went completely bonkers with everything. It's pretty much a Looney Tunes film, but with gremlins. It's a wild one. Like you have to experience it for yourself. Um, and then lastly, we have The Godfather Part 3, the one that's not the best of the trilogy. I think there's some stuff that you can enjoy, but it's the most forgettable one, and it's the last one. So yeah,
Yeah, of these I have seen only a couple, obviously Total Recall and then The Godfather Part 3. which, yeah, I did not find that one compelling. As someone who's not super into gangster movies, and this is not considered the greatest gangster movie of all time.
Well, on to our number ones then.
Yeah. So my number one, sticking with my established theme of outsiders, and people making their own community on the outskirts of society, I have Paris is Burning. This is directed by Jenny Livingston, and it is a documentary about ballroom culture in New York during the 1980s. Yeah, it follows various trans women, drag queens, and other queer people, mostly Black or Hispanic, as they navigate both the ballroom scene and the wider city around them. And yeah, this is a deeply, deeply important film, a deeply important document of this time and this place. This is a bit of an text when it comes to modern day mainstream depictions of drag and ballroom culture. This is I saw this for the first time after having seen a couple seasons of Drag Race, and the amount of things where I realized, oh, this is where that quote comes from. It's just wall to wall references. But beyond that, there's this deep emotional core of like both the optimism and the realities of how difficult life was at the time for the people being documented here, right? This is there is this joy in this art and this creation through ballroom and through ballroom culture that is just it's so incredible to see. But then there's also like the struggles in day-to-day life, the difficulties, and it's touching on all of these very heavy topics, and it holds both of them and it makes you feel both of them. It's just this very incredible documentary that's also very, very important. And yeah, if you don't know much about this, or if you do know a lot about this and haven't seen this, this is one that is worth checking out.
I haven't seen it.
Neither have I. What have I seen? Ghost. This was also another movie I saw at the Alamo probably last year. Yeah, I didn't know anything about it, so just one day I just choose to watch this film, and um, the obvious wasn't obvious to me until it happened. If you don't know, then stay oblivious till you watch it. Um, Also, something I didn't expect to happen. Whoopi Goldberg is in this film. She carries so much. She is definitely like the best part of the film. Like genuinely, if she wasn't in this film, is this film worth watching? Questionable. She is this film, in my opinion. So she's so much fun. So if anything, like, oh my goodness, yeah. What I think did she win
Yeah, she
Best
won
Actress
supporting
or
actress
Best
for this.
Supporting? Best Supporting Actress for a comedic role, guys. Guys, that's peak cinema right there. So I don't know. I feel like that should be convincing enough. Whoopi Goldberg, who won Best Supporting Actress for a comedic role in Ghost.
Yeah,
That's my pitch for you guys. I'm sorry, I don't have anything else to say.
yeah, she is really the heart of what makes this film what it is. Yeah, it's an interesting enough story on its own, and it has obviously, this incredibly iconic pottery scene, but it doesn't really come to life until Whoopi Goldberg enters. And yeah, it's so much fun. She's great in it. I think this was kind of seen as like a makeup Oscar for her for The Color Purple, which she's also very good in.
Mm.
But I think she earns this in this film. And it is, as you were saying, for a comedy film, this is a really fun win. Um, and yeah,
That's the interesting thing. If you remove Whoopi Goldberg from this film, it's not a comedy. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like she is the comedy. It's great. Yeah, I knew nothing, absolutely nothing about this film, including her, and so she appears and she steals the show.
Yeah, only thing I really know about this film was the pottery scene, which has been parodied to death in so many other films. So, yeah. Besides that, I haven't seen it.
yeah. I mean, this was the one of the highest grossing films of the year. So that was definitely a cultural touch point for a little while going forward. Even nowadays, you could reference the pottery scene, and people will catch on to that.
But on to my number one. My number one is the live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So, man, this film understood the assignment of what it was supposed to be. Live action Ninja Turtles. It did that so fantastically. Like the story, they adapted different story arcs from the comics. They did a fantastic blend of the darkness of the comics plus the light, toyetic designs from the 80s cartoon that was he was popular by. And it's just like great. You have the turtles, which are just these fantastic costumes with Jim Henson puppetry and mouth movement that some of it, it's aged pretty well, but some of it's like kind of jarring. But like, yeah, it's lots of fun. There's great fights. I love the way the films look. This was my introduction to the turtles, and like it really got me into it. So, yeah, it was the first live action turtles, and it's arguably still the best turtles film for live action. That is. So, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one though. Um, John and I have a podcast called Binging Barbie, which is about toy movies. So this is one that I will be eventually seeing.
One of these years we'll get to it.
Yep. When we do My Little Turtles.
Yeah, I also haven't seen it. I know there was the recent Arrow set that a lot of people have gone bananas over. I also know this got a theatrical re-release last year. I was not able to catch that, so maybe one day.
Yeah.
John, it's on your list for me, right?
Yeah, it's on the list for things for you to watch.
Yeah, it's on the list.
I love how I love and hate. No, I just hate how inconsistent it is for streaming. Like, it's never streaming whenever I want to, and whenever I'm like doing something else, it's like on Paramount Plus for like 1 month, and it's like gone for almost a year. So
Yeah, but you know what you can do? You can buy that Arrow set, which
it's so expensive. I want it, but it's so expensive.
well, I gotta say, the Barnes and Noble Arrow 50% off sale ends tomorrow, so
Yeah, my Barnes and Noble has nothing, my guy.
you order it online because of course they're not gonna have in person.
It's still expensive, even with the 50%. Anyway, let's continue with my soured mood with our least favorites.
Yeah. So mine, I'll just get into it. It's Jacob's Ladder, directed by Adrian Lyne and written by Bruce Joel Rubin. Just briefly, it follows a Vietnam vet living in New York City who begins to see strange things. I don't want to spoil anything in case people want to see this one for themselves, because it is a bit unfair for me to put it in this spot. Now, I haven't seen a ton of movies from 1990. So that's the main reason it's here, is that I haven't seen a ton else and I didn't really have anything else to talk about. But I do have a very major problem with this film, which is that it starts out incredibly promising. It has this like beautifully creepy tone, great performances, incredible like production design and makeup design, and like this real sense of place. Like you feel the sense of the city as this like real and dangerous setting. There are some like incredible sequences here in the first half, and it just sets up this really, really fascinating mystery. And the more answers we get to that mystery, the more underwhelmed I felt. It has a clear purpose for what it wants to do, but I found what it was going for less interesting than what I was imagining in my head, just based on the sense of mystery in the first half. This is very much worth checking out if you're curious to see it. But for me, it didn't land well. I just ended up being very disappointed in what it ended up being about versus all of the promise that it had at the start. It has that thing that a lot of, I think, mystery movies and especially horror films have, where the more things it starts to answer, the less you are engaged with it, the more it kind of pushes you away. And yeah, the first half of this would easily be in my top 5 if not for the second half of this film. So I have it in my worst spot here. That's a little unfair because I did love so much of this, but yeah, I just wanted some space to talk about it. So that's why it's my worst. It's not the worst film that I saw from 1990, but it is just the disappointment I felt as I started to realize what this was actually about was just immense. Well, yeah, Christopher, you don't have a worst film for this year.
Oh
You
yeah, yeah.
bowed
I
out of
keep
that.
forgetting I'm in between. So conceptually, I could have picked one of the three that I mentioned in my honorable mentions, but I just and I thought of doing something a little silly of oh, this is my worst film, and then kind of just talking only positively about it. But honestly, I didn't really want to do that. Maybe if I feel more convicted about something being a worst, maybe I'll mention it. Or if I run out of space, maybe I'll just scoot one over to that slot.
On to my least favorite of the year. I have The Bonfire of the Vanities, which I watched as part of my Tom Hanks viewing. Um, this is one that I really like the premise. And the premise is that this rich high society couple accidentally drive into the wrong neighborhood with like the poor people, where they accidentally also run over a local thinking that he was like trying to mug them, but he was trying to be helpful. And so the film is essentially the court case of them trying to get out. And we have a drunk reporter, Bruce Willis, trying to save them. And that should be an interesting thing because there's like themes of race and classism, and that should be interesting. But the film tries to play everything off as a comedy,
Oh,
and none of the comedy works. And it's just so bad and dull and disappointing, and it's just not good. So, yeah.
yeah, I know about this one from the Patrick H. Willems video about the one shot of the film that cost like hundred or tens of thousands of dollars. Um, that is like a throwaway shot that no one would even know about if not for that.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it. I'm familiar with its reputation. Um, but yeah, I'm curious to see it. Maybe I'll get around to it one day. Just sort of that morbid curiosity of like I just want to see how bad it is.
Well, that seems to be all we have for the year 1990. Here we are at the beginning of our journey for the 90s. It's going to be fun going through the rest of the years, talking about popular films and seeing if we watch movies or don't watch movies. I don't know what I'm saying. You're watching movies, so yeah.
I
Uh,
mean, my next 3 years are looking kind of scant, so I have a lot of work to do to have top fives for the next 3 years.
well, with that, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.